Through the Taiwan Strait they sailed, Australia and Canada defiant. Beijing's response: warnings, shadowing, and accusations of provocation. Taiwan mobilises, allies stand firm, and China's anger escalates. In Asia's most contested waters, the clash of words and warships is only intensifying. The Chinese military followed and warned Australian and Canadian warships sailing through the sensitive Taiwan Strait on September 6th, with Beijing describing the incident as a provocation. The People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theatre Command said,
"The Australian guided missile destroyer Brisbane and the Canadian frigate Ville de Quebec were engaged in troublemaking and provocation. The actions of the Canadians and Australians send the wrong signals and increase security risks."
However, an Australian Defence spokesperson said, the HMAS Brisbane conducted a routine transit with the Canadian frigate through the Taiwan Strait on September 6th and 7th in accordance with international law.
HMAS Brisbane is on a 4-month-long regional presence deployment to the Indo-Pacific region. Australian vessels and aircraft will continue to exercise freedom of navigation and uphold international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea.
A spokesperson said the Canadian Armed Forces do not comment on sail plans for currently deployed ships. The spokesperson said the Ville de Quebec is deployed as part of Operation Horizon, meant to promote peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. According to a Canadian government statement, Ville de Quebec was operating in the Philippine Economic Zone earlier this week, participating in freedom of navigation exercises. China, which views Taiwan as its own territory, says the strategic waterway is part of its territorial waters. Taiwan's government rejects Beijing's territorial claims. China has increased its military pressure on the island over the past 5 years, including staging war games nearby. Meanwhile, Taiwan's Defence Ministry said in a statement on September 6th that it keeps a close watch on activity in the Strait and dispatches appropriate air and naval forces to ensure the security and stability of the waterway, which separates Communist China from the democratic island of Taiwan. The MND told CNA that it employs joint intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance measures to maintain full awareness of sea and air activity in the area and has deployed appropriate forces to ensure security and stability. The reports come amid heightened regional tensions, with China claiming the Taiwan Strait as its territorial waters and criticising joint exercises by Canada, Australia and the Philippines in the South China Sea earlier this week. Canadian media reported that the Ville de Quebec recently took part in another freedom of navigation operation alongside Philippine, Australian and US warships, with the three nations' navies later conducting drills near the Scarborough Shoal. The operation drew a sharp response from Beijing. A spokesperson for the Chinese People's Liberation Army's Southern Theatre Command said the Philippines was soliciting foreign countries to conduct so-called joint patrols and undermining regional peace and stability. The Canada-Australia transit is part of a series of Allied naval passages through the Taiwan Strait since at least 2018. But it stands out for its joint execution and dramatic escalation in Chinese rhetoric and military monitoring compared to earlier incidents. The US Navy conducts regular transits, about once a month, often joined by allies like Canada, the UK, France and Australia. Canada now transits around 3 times per year, sometimes with joint US manoeuvres. Previous Allied passages, such as those by US, Canadian and British ships, drew strong words from Beijing, but mostly resulted in monitoring or trailing by PLA forces rather than aggressive manoeuvres. However, recent years have seen Chinese naval actions become noticeably more assertive, with interceptions, warnings and pointed accusations of provocation, especially following joint or high-profile transits. Canada, in particular, has started to bring journalists aboard, reflecting rising tensions and a focus on public awareness of Chinese pressure tactics during these transits. Meanwhile, the PLA Eastern Theatre Command reported comprehensive air and naval monitoring and public statements of effective response, a step up from the low-profile tracking of past years. The Philippine Navy said on September 4th that 2 Chinese warships trailed its joint drills with the United States, Australia and Canada near Scarborough Shoal, but did not disrupt the maritime exercise, which successfully concluded. Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, Navy spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, said a Luoyang-class guided missile destroyer and a Jiang Kai-class frigate were located about 40 nautical miles southeast of Scarborough Shoal during the 10th Multilateral Maritime Cooperative Activity on September 2nd and 3rd.
These ships were monitored during the conduct of the 10th MMCA. They were observed following the International Task Group and were not conducting any surface serials or synchronized movement that would generally indicate a joint patrol.
Australia, Canada and the Philippines deployed naval vessels and aircraft for drills against simulated aerial threats off a disputed South China Sea shoal, where China's military has used dangerous maneuvers to try to drive away Manila's aircraft and ships.